The Craig Berube era has started in Toronto with him making a crazy change to the lineup ahead of the season, which has huge implications on the Leafs going into opening night. And we're going to break it all down for you guys coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into it, Mark, we got to say that 71% of people watching aren't subscribed to the channel. So if you're not subscribed, you want to keep up to date on everything that's happening heading into the start of the regular season, make sure down below and hit that subscribe button. But before we get into Berube's big change, we got to talk about JT, because John Tavares spoke out about his current contract situation. Obviously, at the end of the season, if you didn't know already, John Tavares is going to be a UFA. But today, he spoke to media, and from our good buddy Chris Johnston on Twitter, this is what he actually went out to say here. He said that he wants to be in Toronto long term, and he said hopefully that happens. And Mark, this is great to hear from John Tavares, because you could even say that maybe he had some mixed emotions about not being the captain anymore. Maybe that might have tear him away to leave for another team. But man, he's the pajama boy. He's John Tavares. Obviously, he wants to stay in Toronto.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, if you're getting Tavares in with an extra $6 million in cap space to go out and pick up maybe another defenseman, another winger, because the left wing spot seems like it's a revolving door that they cannot figure out, this $6 million could be the make or break on this Leafs team making a even better roster. They have a team right now, a new coach, they want to go deep. Bringing in an extra player, this could be a Jonathan Marchessault type player coming in to help push this team. Tavares is a guy that can work his way from the second line center down to the third line center as he gets up in age and still be one of the most productive centers, not only on the Leafs, but in the entire NHL.
Yeah, and you still got all these fairly young talents in Austin Matthews, in William Nylander, in Mitch Marner, and very young prospects coming up like Easton Cowan, Fraser Minten. So sticking around with John Tavares for the next couple of years, having that veteran in the lineup who can, continue to show these guys the way of the NHL is definitely going to be a big thing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I really do think that re-signing him back is definitely the best option for them to do. But we want to hear your guys' thoughts on that down below in the comment section. But Mark, this is the big thing today. We got to talk about this. And this changes everything for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And yes, we've been talking about this ever since the Leafs have got Craig Berube as a head coach. We said there's going to be some big changes coming. And today, there was a big one announced from Mark Masters on Twitter. Craig Berube says William Nylander will start camp at center with Max Domi on his wing. And this has me fired up today, Mark, because we've been talking about this for a while, that sliding William Nylander to that center position could really benefit the Toronto Maple Leafs. And seeing the way Max Domi played on the wing for the Leafs last year, I think this could be a lethal duo.
I mean, when you're looking at teams that win the Stanley Cup, they have deep center depth. If you bring Nylander and put him into the second line center or third line center, that makes this team so much better in every aspect. I mean, if you're looking at Willie's scoring chances throughout the regular season, throughout the playoffs, and you look at a shot map, a lot of the shots do come from the hash marks, where centers like to tend to hang out a lot of time offensively as well. Nylander's perfect in front of the net for a guy that can tip in shots, get rebounds, he can score everywhere, but having him in his most dangerous zone is going to be good. And it seems like Craig Berube wants to kind of mold Nylander into this new player, a defensive center, a guy that can still score goals, put up assists, still be productive all over the ice. And this gives Tavares the opportunity to either be the third line center, maybe move over to the wing with a guy like Nylander, whatever it might be. I think Craig Berube is onto something. We've seen Sheldon Keefe try it. It felt like 2 shifts and then he got away from it. But I do think Berube is going to go deeper with this, maybe the entire preseason, maybe to start the regular season. But him and Domi could work a lot of magic with their speed, passing, with Nylander scoring. I think it's going to be quite exciting to watch.
Yeah, obviously this is a big change, like you alluded to, make him play a little bit more defensively, where in this first few years in Toronto, fans were calling him soft, he wasn't going into the board battles, but over these last couple of years, we've really seen him develop that side of his game by finishing his checks, by getting into the corners like a center typically would be doing. And now that we've seen him develop that side of his game, Berube isn't afraid afraid to throw him into this center position because he could really excel at it. And I really think, like you said, having the speed and playmaking of Max Domi with William Nylander could really be an exceptional line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I think Domi, I've said this before, is going to have a standout season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But Mark, I think this is one of the many changes we're going to see come in preseason here.
And the biggest thing is you can kind of put a nice defensive winger with them. Maybe even if you wanted to try Marner down with her instead of Domi, putting Domi up on the top line. You have guys like David Kampf, who I would not put there, but a defensive player nonetheless that could play with his unit. But I think Järnkrok's a guy that would play perfectly with this. You have two playmakers, a guy with Nylander that can still score a lot for you. I mean, we see him score almost 50 last year. And then putting a guy like Järnkrok, who's good defensively, can still pot you goals. I think this would make the perfect line, especially if this is going up third line talent, or if you wanted to play him on the second line just to add speed, a bit of grit, and some defensive game as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing John Tavares slide down to the third line here. Maybe he gets to play with Easton Cowan or Nick Robertson, whoever ends up in that left wing spot, and that could really help those young players out by having him as a line mate, and playing Bobby McMann even on the left wing of this second line with a hypothetical Nylander and Domi. I think they could be a really solid line. I think McMahon really popped off last year for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he can play some defense as a forward as well, but he's also a guy who's not afraid to get on the point sheet as well, and I really do like this change for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because I think they needed something to change here. We've been talking about it. A lot of people said it was trading Mitch Marner away, which I 100% disagreed with, but I think that just changing the lineup, shaking it up, getting guys out of their comfort zone will really help the Leafs, especially come playoff time.
And the biggest thing is when you look at St. Louis and Craig Berube was there, they had the identity line. They had a third line that was hard to play against. They were potting goals. They were playing good defensively, and they were causing havoc on the ice. So I think having Nylander and Domi down on the third line, or John Tavares in between a guy like Easton Cowan and Bobby McMann or someone else, this makes so much room for an identity line that teams aren't going to have just kind of the answers to go up against. I mean, when you look at third lines in hockey, for the most part, this is still a good line, but they're not top-end talent. So if you start putting in top-end talent on your third line, it's going to make a lot of adjustments for the opposing team's coach to kind of struggle with, to figure things out. And I think this is where the Leafs could kind of like excel in their game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Leafs have the talent there to have a great third line. They just need to have a line that is all going to mesh together. And I think having that leader in John Tavares slipping down to that third line, where he's getting older, he might get a little bit less minutes, but I think having him with maybe a young guy like Nick Robertson, Easton Cowan, one of those type of players, and a Järnkrok on the right side could really be that identity line like you alluded to, and I'd really love to see that. And I think the Leafs are going to be hard to play against this year. There's no doubt about it. Their defense got way better, and now with these shakeups in the lineup, they're going to be a fun team to watch. We want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you think about this change to Nylander to center? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on it down below in the comment section. We're going to get into everybody's favorite topic in the video here, which is comment of the day. And the comment of the day today goes to Roofing Solutions. He says Hakanpää is everything defensively. A+++ on D. Did I forget he shoots right? I mean, I love Hakanpää. I think he's going to be a great 7th D for Toronto. Like I said in previous videos, I think he's going to be a player that you can put out against top offenses, and he's just going to finish the hits, he's going to block the shots, and he's really going to be a fun person to watch if he can keep that knee healthy throughout the rest of the season. But I appreciate the comment there, Roofing Solutions. If you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to go down below, hit that like button, helps push these videos out to all the NHL fans on YouTube. Also, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road for 5,000 subscribers here before the start of the season. So if you're not subscribed, you're liking the content here, make sure to go down below, hit that subscribe button, and comment on the video as well. You might be featured on the next comment of the day, just like our buddy Roofing Solutions was today. And if you want to check out a video we did the other day, it'll be popped up on your screen right now. But as always, I've been your host, KC, alongside my co-host, Mark Pye. Keep your stick on the ice.